Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Grace Costa, a commercial photographer of over 2 decades, a photo-based artist and a photography mentor. This podcast opens up a secret diary about the world of the photography industry. We'll bring you inspiring interviews with industry professionals, as well as stories and tips to help you propel through your photography journey, whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro. Thanks for joining me today. Now let's open the latest diary. Hi friends, welcome back to the Photo Diaries podcast. Super excited to have you here. Today we have my beautiful friend Ferne Millen, a commercial photographer, artist and creative director from Torquay in Victoria. We are very lucky to have her speak to us today about her creative work. So welcome Ferne, so pleased that you're here.
Grace, how lucky am I to be hanging out with you this morning? You always light my life up, and I always feel gratitude for when I get to speak to you because you've got lots of words of wisdom. And you seem to be able to pull out the good stuff out of me and ignore the bad.
Well, thank you so much. I always have a joyful time hanging out with you when I come to Melbourne. We met when we were both finalists at the National Photographic Portrait Prize. Our works were hanging side by side in the National Portrait Gallery. And It was that moment I saw you, you saw me, our works were printed humongous. And I think I complimented you and said, I loved your portrait, and you complimented mine. And we were like, all right, let's be friends. 10 years on, here we are.
Yeah, the metaphor is that we were hanging on a wall together and we're still hanging.
We're still hanging
together, and then, and it's amazing just cutting through to the generous and the openness of that friendship is that sometimes you think as photographers you're in competition with others, but I think what you understand is that each person has a unique voice and they always have a different perspective, and it's honoring that and respecting others and just seeing and championing others to find that and see their best work. And I know I'm reversing roles here, but I've seen you come from working, for the military.
Royal Military College.
Yeah, and now seeing you embrace your work with, especially in the horses, where you sort of discovered that was one of your voices in your work. I love seeing that, and that passion evolve, and now to see how that's now being integrated and then, expanded upon, like with all your work in the commercial branding, everything you do in Canberra. It's unreal.
Thank you. Well, we're here to talk about you.
I'm good at deflecting. I'm usually not really keen.
Well, look, you have been a multi-award winning photographer. You've been in the industry over 20 years. You've been a finalist in so many prestigious awards, Portrait Prize multiple times, Head On multiple times, other national and international awards. So you are really pushing forward your creative work. You're getting yourself out there. You're telling stories. And I feel like that's really motivational for our listeners. Even though you are a commercial photographer, that's your everyday bread and butter type of work. You are making time to tell stories through your creative spirit, and you know that that's really important to you. So what has made you sort of put that as a priority? You're a busy mom as well as running your business, but you are now prioritizing your creative work and, winning grants, arts grants and things like that. So what's making you prioritize that?
I feel there's a groundswell in Australian culture. We're trying to discover our identity, especially currently with our Indigenous affairs as a voice to Parliament. I'm very involved at a grassroots level locally at trying to, connect in and see the bigger picture and why people want this and why people want to feel connected to their community, especially after COVID. We all have a sense of needing and feeling the desire to feel connected at a community level. I'd say over the last 5 to 6 years, there's been a real, sort of shift for me from the commercial space, which has been afforded me the lifestyle in what I create as an artist and a photographer. But even at the corporate level, there's a lot of corporate responsibility taking place and engagement with community and a lot of those values that I align with. So you might have I'm on the board for Bendigo Bank Torquay Community Enterprise, and I'm the artistic voice on that community enterprise. And that allows the bigger picture to see projects that are evolving on a community level that I might oversee, have a creative input to or support to, and see that. So, I mean, one of the projects I've just helped and I'm creating is working with a local food rescue group called Surfcoast Feed Me, and they rescue all the large food resources that are probably going to be thrown out, and those foods are then moved to warehouses, and then they're re-loved and created into lots of thousands and thousands of foods for people that can't afford meals to go to school, kids and families. And I sort of helped them get a grant to pitch for to create 4 small sort of minute video pitches around sort of the indigenous surf titles, their food production, their rescue food service, and all those things. So my way of creating now is about helping people that are on the margins of society and creating a voice or a way for them to be heard, to be seen, to be valued. So I think there's a shift in that. There's a lot of that they sort of aren't too separate. The creative world and the corporate commercial world really are designed to create change in community, to identify gaps that are not being served very well, and also to provide responsibility. With all the money that big corporates might make, they still have to, have a fundamental value system that their business is founded on. And I know that for me has been a reflection on my business and how I have these fundamental values and how I want to present in community, present in society, present to the world through predominantly my creative photography. And so I think over time, as you grow as a commercial photographer, I started my business in 2003. I feel like, I have a corporate responsibility to give back to community, to sort of provide opportunities. And so, my recent project, Journey on Wadawurrung Country, is a collaboration with First Nations people on the land in which I live, in which I was born. And it's about a respectful collaboration between us so that they feel supported, they feel like their voices are heard. I'm working with a sound artist to record interviews I do and sounds on country. And then that's integrated into a fully immersive exhibition that's educational. You get to see and hear the sounds of country and the people that are recognised Aboriginal people from the Wadawurrung family line in where I live. And I mean, I could probably go on for days, but you probably need to prompt me for the next one because...
Well, let's talk about that particular project. How did that first come about? Did you decide that you wanted to tell stories around Wadawurrung people, or was that put forward to you that some corporate or some agency wanted to tell stories around that?
Well, first and foremost, it was a project that came channeled to me, like it was something that came to me, and it's founded on like a lifetime of understanding and respectful approaches to other cultures. My dad was a professor of sociology at Deakin Uni, and he often went up to places to interview, we went up to Northern Territory to interview Aboriginal trackers. He was with an anthropologist, John Perry from South Africa, and we would just tag along, us kids, and we'd be out in Northern Territory. And so that was sort of became, normal to me. So, and I guess over time, that really has served me well to understand and show respectful, designing respectful projects around that. Because of that first project, that first connection in Northern Territory there, I sort of did romanticize about it a bit. And I thought, that'd be great to go up there and I'll do great photographs. And then over time, I developed some great friendships down here in Geelong, which means tongue of the land in Wadawurrung. But Geelong is where I grew up. And over time, I realised that I had Aboriginal friends and people around me, especially when I was working in the corporate sector in Geelong for city council or various things. And they'd started these smoking ceremonies and welcome to countries 15, 20 years ago. And I was sort of intrigued, and I thought, gee, I'm so lucky to be here to photograph this. But, the most interesting part of the photo shoot was usually the smoking ceremony.
Yeah.
And the rest of the sort of conversations that happened at the mic were a little bit less exciting for the camera. So I realised that is the main event. Half the time is about the people turning up, the people being present, the people listening to, our First Nations people and hearing their story in a short time, even if it was just the welcome. I felt like that deserved more attention than being tokenistic.
Okay.
And so so I guess just before COVID, I'd mentioned to my friend and traditional owner, Karina Eccles, who's a Wadawurrung woman, that I would be interested in doing some photos and interviews with some our region in this region for the Wadawurrung people. And then COVID hit, and then I thought, God, well, we can't. I wanted to see that dream come true, but I mean, suddenly I didn't have all the commercial work because I wasn't out on site. But in my regional area in Victoria, we weren't completely locked down like Melbourne, but I could have one person to my studio and I had to remain COVID safe and all this stuff. So I applied for a grant with the City of Melbourne, which is not in my region, but at the same time, they were interested in the project. And I got my first grant to do the pilot project of the project, which was doing a test run to see how an interview and photo shoot would look.
Right.
In the big picture of going forward. So we wanted to test run that, and I was able to work with Karina Eccles in my studio, who also is a Surf Coast woman. So we did the first series of those, and I bought a Zoom and did the first interview, and I went outside of my thing, but I didn't have the distraction of all the commercial work, and it was one of those sort of serendipitous moments where I was actually doing what I love because of the changes that were happening around the world.
Yeah, it was kind of forced upon you.
Yeah.
And it gave you that space to actually allow it in.
Oh,
the time it needed and create something completely new for you.
yeah. And I did create something new, and we did start it with a smoking ceremony, which we gathered leaves from the back of the creek here where I live in Jan Juc, next to Torquay, in the same postcode. And we have a beautiful bush aspect at the back, and we actually gathered gum leaves and cherry balat, the native sandalwood, and we didn't do it. We did it respectfully. We wanted to do a smoking to initiate the project, to clear the bad air of the past and make sure that the goals of this project would be visualized through that respectful partnership. And so we put it into action through a smoking ceremony, which became our hero shot as we toured Wadawurrung country. We launched in Geelong Arts Centre. We went to the Ballarat International Photo Biennale as a core project.
Amazing. You're in the Biennale. Congratulations.
Yeah. We projected all the photographs that I ended up doing over the year post that pilot of different indigenous elders. We projected their photographs, their portraits onto the Ballarat Town Hall.
Yes.
In 2021, sorry.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so then that was a great way of being able to be represented during a very peak COVID time, because the Ballarat Photo Biennale did extend. I think they had a 2-month or 3-month extension that year, which meant that the project was projected over those 6 months and really got a lot of exposure, because not everyone was going into small galleries as well. It was prominent, and it was right in the centre, in the heart of Ballarat, which is a very major meeting place and township for the Wadawurrung people. So it's on the border of the Wadawurrung country, but Ballarat's still within the Wadawurrung territory. And then we moved it to Ballarine, which was a smaller potato shed, it's called, which is a performing arts centre on the Ballarine, which is also was great. We managed to get about 1,200 people, including school kids, and we did an educational session.
Wow.
Supported by Regional Arts Victoria. So we were able to bring First Nation person to come and speak to kids and community groups. Yeah.
Wow. So that turned into a multi-level and multifaceted program too, like around education and the arts. So did that give you other opportunities since then? So you've done that project and it sort of expanded. Did it then turn into another project around Indigenous storytelling?
Well, I mean, because it's not my story, it's theirs. I'm just the conduit. I'm the creative that enables their story to be heard. I don't think it's changed too much of what I was already doing. I mean, I've worked I had a background in music photography from an early age, 15 and or younger, and I worked a lot with indigenous elder and the late Archie Roach. I was the official photographer at Port Fairy for 20 years nearly, and Shane Howard, who I met there. So I don't think it changed my direction with what I was doing. It's just that it cohesively brought it into a project that is tourable and that's making waves on a regional level, just to educate school kids and community about accessing and hearing stories of Aboriginal people, because we can't rely on just the news. We have to get down to the grassroots level and be able to provide opportunities for people to learn. And that can dispel the biggest factor about difference in the world is fear. We have a fear of the unknown. We have a fear of what we don't know.
Understand.
And so, but today, it gave me the courage to be able to, as a white woman, to be able to step into that space. Today, I have Thomas Mayo, who is a Torres Strait Islander. He's coming down from Darwin to speak at our forum we're having tonight in Torquay. And, of course, I'm going to pick him up from the train station. And, of course, I'm volunteering at this event.
Yes.
But I think it's a great opportunity to photograph a signatory of the Uluru Statement from the Heart. It's an opportunity to work with like-minded people that may be from different cultures or different, Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal people, but walking together and making sure that we can hero the champions that are making a change in society in Australia. And for me, I think that is an acknowledgement of identity that I see myself as going forward. So I think possibly change my understanding of the importance of identity and Australian identity today is very different to what I might have thought our identity was 10 years ago.
Yeah, you've definitely picked that up, and you're making it part of your new journey as a creative and as a spokesperson for their community as well, which is really great to see. And I don't hear of a lot of photographers doing that. So yeah, you must feel really proud that now you have something to stand for. You feel like you've found your purpose. So where is it going to take you from here on?
Thanks, Grace. It's nice to think of myself as being a spokesperson, but I guess I feel like all photographers somewhere deep inside have the ability to be a storyteller. The storyteller, we're in this business of storytelling because quite often we're not about our selfish viewpoint of that person. We're about a meeting point in the middle. We want to make sure that person is heard and seen in the genuine way, that the genuine person that they are. And I also want to reflect that in the photograph I take. So it's a two-way stream. And where am I going in the future with all this? I mean, I guess for me, I've understood that I'm not just a photographer. I'm an art director, and I can see the bigger picture. I can see the bigger picture of what the work means, and how that can, affect others, how it can influence or not influence, but kind of encourage others to see different viewpoints about certain things in community. And I feel like, I don't know, I keep going back to music. Music's been a big part of my life. I had an exhibition called Rock On in Melbourne, early 2000s, and I was an artist, musician myself, and I feel like there's something, the way that look at Paul Kelly, the way storytelling is brought into music.
Yeah.
I start to realise that storytelling can be brought into photography. And what I love is the idea of capturing sound and how that might play in a creative exhibition space. So we can, I'm not really, so I can hire videographers to do certain commercial jobs. I'm not interested in doing it myself, but I like the idea of just two sensory elements, the visual sight and the audio.
Yeah, it really helps elevate a story, doesn't it? It elevates pictures.
Yeah. And also, Grace, you know how, people can have their own viewpoint based on their own upbringing, their own experiences, and they see a picture, but you can actually train them to see your perspective a little bit if you could create a sound around that photograph. So I'm just exploring the idea of having headphones on for our next exhibition and having the sound. I would like to have an overall atmospheric sound as you come into the exhibition.
Yes.
To listen to the stories of elders, I would love to have sort of a more personal individualized sort of Bluetooth-based headset set up.
Yeah.
So you can hear the stories as you view the photograph.
So when you are doing, say, an individual portrait of each of these Indigenous peoples, are you, making some time before your photo shoot to get to know them, ask them a whole lot of questions? Are you preparing that sort of thing pre-shoot, or are you going in and just shooting them straight away and then letting somebody else pull out the stories from them?
Well, last year I worked with Artists in the Black, Australian arts law, and I sort of became a member and got a basic policy. It was Artists in the Black policy that I then worked with the Wadawurrung traditional owners to customize to suit our project. And the main thing with that was to have a very clear direction as to how we would approach traditional owners, how that would be navigated through the corporation. And some of those aspects are ensuring that, there's care is taken with approaching them, that there's permission given to me before I approach anyone. Then I might communicate with the carer. They are sent like a list of questions that they'll know that they'll have to apply, see. They're also sent in advance a policy sort of a sort of shortened version of the policy, so that they've got they sign off on having their photograph and story told.
Yeah, like a consent form.
Yeah, exactly. And they also know that their stories won't be used without permission, and we'll always provide them an edit, and they'll get to choose how they're heard and how they're seen. So they have control over the outcome, and they always and all of the deliverables, all of the assets that are created, even the hard copies are provided to, like all the masters original from the sound artists, they're provided to the Wadawurrung Traditional Owners Aboriginal Corporation.
Right.
So they're gifted to the person that we're interviewing. They are given almost their copyright.
Yeah, but
in the collaboration policy, it's like a shared copyright. So I know that I have the right to use the photographs and sounds, but it's always there's always communication. There's always a yarn involved. Oh, we use it for this? Or can I put it into the portrait prize?
Okay.
Or if I use this story in this element, but essentially we've written it into the project. So it's not really to be used outside of the project, which gives it a sort of a nice kind of landing place. It's all contained within the project's boundaries.
Gotcha.
And it's very unusual that we would take one of those images of the portraits or the sound bites out of it to use that in a different context. And if so, of course, there might be time when we feel that it needs to see an international, have an international market, or there might be something. Yeah, so it's just about communication, keeping it open.
And so you mentioned when we were speaking offline about copyright with these particular projects. So as a traditional commercial photographer, we own the copyright to everything we create. And in this situation, it's different. Can you explain to us how you don't really own the copyright solely with these projects?
Yeah, I mean, the simple thing is, I've worked a lot, especially in Victoria, where there's a lot of stolen generation people, Indigenous people, and the last thing I want to do is steal their story and say it's my asset. It's as simple as that. I mean, I want them to know that they have ownership of their story. And stories are tangible. It's different to the recording. There's a recording and then there's a story. And someone's story is always going to be theirs, and they have the right to change it.
What about the two-dimensional image?
So the actual physical asset, the final mastered soundbite, which is a recording, not a story, and this final physical photograph or the digital file is still, it's a shared copyright. So the copyright is is underwritten by collaboration policy that we've all signed off on, and no photograph or sound can be used without permission from each individual.
Okay, understood.
I mean, I guess that's very different to, say, in my commercial work where I might do a shoot where I've done something, say, for Volkswagen for the Amarok launch of their ute, and then we might have a 3-year policy where they've got the rights to use the image high res for whatever reasons they need to, general usage.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there'd be some sort of limitations to that. If they want to put it on a Learjet on the outside, sure, go ahead, but pay me.
Yeah.
And I think there's and so it's a very sort of, you're looking at all the possibilities of how it might be used out of your control.
Mm.
Because you're almost handballing it over to the commercial client. You're giving them the opportunity to maximize the use of your photographs, but there's always an element of pay involved, or there might be a time constraint. Yeah. Whereas this doesn't seem to have that. It's the opposite. There's no real time constraint. It's an ongoing project. The policy is written in a way so that even when I'm gone, like the photographs, the images, of country, the sounds of country, and the sounds of the recordings will continue to be owned by the families involved. So it's sort of a letting go process, but it's also an empowering process as well. And I feel that that's what I love about it.
That's beautiful.
It's so different, you know?
So different. Yeah, it just goes to show that energy is so different with these two art forms, and the importance of the legacy of these Indigenous people's stories and personal content, you know?
Oh, I know. I mean, I get that, you know, to think that this country has survived, it's been looked after by the First Nations people for maybe 60,000 years or more. I mean, it's just that I think the project, I remember when this project came to me in my head, and I was over in Summers, and I woke up at 3 a.m. and I literally had the whole project coming into me.
Wow.
And I realized the next day when I had a reflection of it, I went, oh my gosh, this project is bigger than me. Mm-hmm. I'm just lucky to be the creative practitioner that can be the conduit for these stories and allow this project to happen on my watch. You know, I want to make sure that I honor that, and I want to make sure that this project continues, and it continues in time when I'm not around, like, so that generations of some of the elders that are interviewed, the younger generation, will benefit from hearing their grandfather's stories, or their grandmothers, or their aunties and uncles. It's just a great way to celebrate the beautiful, like the beauty in having the ability to work as a creative practitioner, and also, but step respectfully and step quietly, you know, go about doing it.
And has this project inspired you, or working with the Indigenous community inspired you to work towards landscapes, like bringing the land as part of the storytelling, or are you more drawn to portraiture?
Absolutely. When I had the first exhibition, I'd interviewed 8 Indigenous elders that were recognised Aboriginal Wadawurrung people. And then also, because of the stories and the storytelling of the interviews I did with them, a lot of aspects about country and place came up. Mm. And so I have then gone on to create imagery of country that accompanies the photographic portraits in the exhibition.
Gotcha.
So I'm currently working a bit in the Yuyangs. Wadawurrung is the Wadawurrung word. And I'm doing some photographs of that mountain range between Geelong and Melbourne.
Uh-huh.
And I am going out Western District in a few weeks to create some more imagery in the western side, like country elements in the volcanic region of regional area of Wadawurrung country. And in the previous exhibition, I have got shots of mountains, and I've got shots of local seascape where I live. So it started very localized to me, which is in Wadawurrung country, sort of here on the surf coast where I live. And so there's, you know, photographs of the local Point Addis beach and other areas, and the river mouth at Brimley,
mm-hmm.
which was an important gathering place, and middens there for our local Aboriginal people. And so now I'm sort of expanding it to, as I've gone on to interview more people up in the Ballarat area recently, and some other areas, and there's talk of other like places that feel special to them or that they remember in stories from their parents. It's nice to capture some of those, you know, those country elements of what they love and where they feel, and particularly the Yuyangs. I mean, it comes up referenced in a lot of the interviews. They said, you know, just the energy, you can feel it. They talk about the feeling you get when you're on country, and and you know your ancestors have been there before, and it's just this beautiful connection. And I think it always comes back to connection, and that it's all part of the one, you know, the landscape, the people, the culture, all part of that that collective. So it needs to show that connection in the exhibition for sure.
And I remember my first visit to the Northern Territory, and it was my first introduction to Dreamtime. And I remember reading something about how the mountains were once caterpillars, and then, you know, butterflies came into the picture of the mountain shapes, and it really sparked my imagination on how dream timing is creating this. It's probably, fantasy is probably the wrong word to use, but in my world, I felt like it was, they fantasized the landscape and they made me imagine what used to be there before the earth was created. And I've found that just fascinating. So if you explore the landscapes in further detail going forward, I wonder if you would tell stories of Dreamtime and bring out that narrative, and does that come from, and what's the history of Dreamtime?
Yeah, I love that inner child that comes out in your voice when you talk about that. It's like an amazing thing us humans have in our relationship to nature. How much do you love it when a kid takes their shoes off and walks out in the sand or puts their foot in the water and they giggle? I mean, I think that we all have that in us, and it's sort of something about that. Dream time only amplifies the imagination and makes us remind us of what we can do with our imagination. Yeah. I think in my own personal work, maybe I might explore more imaginative Dreamtime stuff that might be a reflection of how I see it, but I don't want to assume that how I see it is how everyone else sees it. So in the Wadawurrung project, I do go to the places and I just see what happens, what comes up. And I'm not trying to put my own voice onto it so much. I'm just trying to be there, be present, and be respectful. And of course, that might mean that I still choose the right time of day, you know, for light.
Yeah.
Atmosphere or time of year, and I think so I try to be a bit fluid with my response to how I might turn up, because dream timing happens when you least expect it.
I feel like that can be really hard to do as a photographer, especially as a commercial photographer, not to bring your spin on an environment or what's put in front of you. I, in the past, have found that really hard to just turn up and let it be without making a judgment through your lens, if that makes sense.
That's a really great topic. We could spend hours talking about judgment on how we see but ironically, the reason someone chooses you for a job is because of your style as a photographer, your voice that you can see. And so, as I was talking before about collaborating with Indigenous people, or even in any portrait work I might do here in my studio or on site with a corporate company like GMHBA, I do all the exec team and photographs. Look, it's really good. They choose me because of the style of lighting, all the skill set you might bring to it, the ability to make someone feel comfortable. But it really is about, we're trying to bring out the best parts of those people. We're trying to bring out their genuine self. So we have to turn up as our genuine self. And then that's where you get the magic. You can't sort of put Fern or Grace in the cupboard and just say, I'm just a mechanical robot, I'm going to take photos. You still have to allow a bit of your judgment, a bit of your voice come through. That's 50% of the photograph. The other 50% is allowing the other person's voice and their genuine self to come through. So we're creating the magic in the middle by showing respect for them and them showing the respect for you. Yeah, that's where you create the magic.
Oh my God, that gives me chills. I absolutely love that. Bringing yourself is such a huge component of being a photographer, especially around portraiture. And if you're not giving, and if you're not open to receiving from them and showing your vulnerability as a photographer on the other side of the camera first, you're not giving them permission to do it back to you.
Spot on. I've got chills that you've got chills. We must be hanging on the wall. We'll have to make a habit of hanging on the wall again at the National Portrait Prize, but I'm pretty excited because you are going to be back this year.
Yes, I'm back this year. I just took it to the framers yesterday and I said, please use gloves. This is for the Portrait Prize. Perfect. But anyway, we are changing direction. Well, let's talk about
when we caught up in Melbourne last, sorry to interrupt, but we caught up in Melbourne and I was just off to go and do a photo shoot for the Portrait Prize. And you had also done one previously, but hadn't kind of completely committed to, you know, to put it in, which one it was. And, you know, we were both on a race to get on that wall. So exciting, though, to just see, you know, a really good friend going again into the Portrait Prize. I mean, I had one in 2013. I think were we that year?
We were 2014, and then you were again. I came with you to the opening for your second time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's such a buzz, isn't it? It's such a buzz for both of us to see each other become finalists and be able to celebrate each other's wins and just really push each other. You and I are really great at reminding each other a deadline is coming up, get your image in. We share with one another so we get feedback and we know we can trust each other for honest critique so that, you know, we're going to put our best image forward.
I mean, look, sometimes I think I was born in the wrong era. I mean, I think in the 70s, artists was all free love and fun, but honesty, and you shared your art and you were part of a bigger thing. You were part of a real, you know, artistic groundswell. And I think it's different now. Here we are talking on Zoom and we're in different cities or different places, but it's amazing that we can still have that kind of, celebration of success, seeing the success of others.
Yeah, and I think it would be nice if it was more prevalent. I know a lot of photographers aren't sharing their work with one another. They keep it secret before a show or before a competition. And I feel like I want to encourage people more to share like you and I share and be open to critique and learning from one another and coming on each other's shoots and that sort of thing to make photography a community of collaboration and support rather than, you know, keeping everything to myself and I don't want to share my prices or I don't want to share my contract or you've helped me right from the beginning when I first started my business. You've been so open with me.
Oh, that's nice.
I guess I've brought that back to you as well because you've shared that with me too.
Well, you know, in a way you've subsided my ability to connect to all that commercial marketing and ability to, your communication skills are fantastic, you know, and showing your offerings, and I think that's really admirable. And I feel that is about wearing your heart on your sleeve, showing your vulnerability and putting that into your marketplace. I mean, I think that really connects in with community and people want that. Look, at the same time, everyone there's different artists, different people, everyone has different styles and approaches. You and I are a little bit more extroverted, but I'm, you know, in a balanced way. Like I love my time to myself too, and I work on my own, and I feel that. But I know some people just don't feel the need to share, and so they have a different purpose for their art practice. True.
Yeah,
like my purpose is about connection, and it is about a lot of it is community minded, and it has an outcome. It does exist out of me, and it has to be pushed out there. Yes. And I have to get response. I have to get approval with the Indigenous stuff. So that has to be always working in trusting in collaboration and having people, you know, have a view of your work before you release it.
Yeah. And let's talk about competitions for a moment. Seeing as you've been a finalist in so many and you've won so many awards, you've done so well in your career over more than 20 years. Why do you keep entering competitions?
Are you talking about me?
Yes.
I don't see myself as someone like that, but I have entered quite a few awards, but only just started in the first award I ever entered was the National Portrait Prize in 2014, and I got in.
Oh my gosh, was it?
I know. Yeah. Yeah, and that was the first ever. And then the second year I entered it again and I got in, and I also got into the Moran Contemporary Photographic Portrait.
Moran, yes.
With my photograph, 2 photographs of the 40 finals were mine, and one was Raphael and his children, which was the one that was the first year of National Portrait Prize.
I remember it, yes.
And also the other photograph was called With Archie, which was a respectful for portrait I took of Archie Roach here in my studio in Jan Juc. And I think, and that ended up being purchased by Deakin for their permanent collection.
Amazing. Yes, I remember that.
And for one of those portraits, Ai Weiwei, the, you know, well-known artist, Chinese artist from, you know, he used my photograph of Archie Roach and turned it into Lego in the Ai Weiwei Warhol exhibition at the National Gallery of Victoria, and that was pretty fantastic to see my photograph turned into Lego.
Wow.
And then this is probably my biggest star-studded moment. Mushroom Records then paid me to go into the National Gallery after hours and set up a rig to do a sort of one-to-one above the Lego of the photograph of Archie, and I photographed it for the album cover for Let Love Rule for Archie Roach.
Amazing.
So, and I mean, it was just like, it was almost like a very Warhol-esque moment. I mean, I had this sort of suddenly a commodity item was created out of a portrait that was created here on country, in Wadawurrung country with Archie.
That is spectacular.
Yeah. So I sort of move away from the question, but we're talking about art prizes. But I guess that's how an art prize can then launch it into a different stage in the art practice, and something else can evolve from it. So it doesn't matter if you don't win the portrait prize. It's more about that it has a voice. The portrait has a voice, and then it might move into a different, space, and it has a different voice, or it can be seen by different people.
Yes, and you can even enter the same portrait into a different competition within the rules and the terms, and then it has a different opportunity and a different voice to reach other people. So that's a really cool example.
Yeah, Raphael and his children were also, that was one, like an example of that, which was both in the National Photographic Portrait Prize. That was in the same one with you, and it's also in the Moran Contemporary. And then my photograph of Jill, which was called Who's That Lady, was in the National Photographic Portrait Prize, and that gets a buzz from everyone. It's really it's a very beautiful characterized shot of her in her lounge room in Torquay with her beautiful Spanish dress on with her legs kicked out. Such a character. Oh, darling. And everyone used to say to me, oh, who's that lady? And they'd just come up to me in the street and say, because I'd have a talk to her at the coffee shop. And they go, who's that lady? So when it came to naming the photograph, I couldn't call it Jill Yateman. I had to say, who's that lady? And so everyone would go up to the photograph in the Northern Portrait Gallery and say, who's that lady? Oh my God, it's called Who's That Lady? And I mean, it just had, and so that was also in the Fremantle International Portrait Prize, which I think is no longer, but it has had it's been in a few art prizes, and
you can stretch it out. That's awesome. I love that story.
Well, it's like people, you can leverage people. I mean, we all need, different people. If you go to a different country or a different place, you're leveraging yourself, because you get exposure to people that never met you. Like, people are probably sick of me in Torquay. I mean, everyone knows each other here. They're not sick of me, but they don't need to know anything else about me. Whereas if I go somewhere like Japan or New York, guess what? I can leverage me.
Yes.
No one knows me there. It's like a living portrait, like a living photograph. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just to wrap up, I want to ask one more question about how other photographers doing creative work can get involved in doing Indigenous community photography, or get involved in some way in telling Indigenous stories if they're also passionate about that. How do you think that they can first approach it?
I mean, it's just like, how do you find your subject for a portrait? It's the same thing. It's no different. It's just about working with your connections, understanding your passion, and combining the two to find the right story that reflects what you want to say, and also might confidently work with someone collaboratively to reflect what they want to say. There's no sort of golden knowledge I'm about to impart on how to find that person. I mean, it's really about people doing their research and finding the right person and working out what it is they want to say before they get there. It's kind of like what they, it's sort of like projecting in the future what you want. It's a bit like saying, well, what do I want to do now? And it's amazing. As an artist, I think it is really about writing down what you want to do and what you see yourself, how you see yourself in a few years' time, and putting that into play. And that might mean little steps like contacting the local RAP, the Recognised Aboriginal Party group, and making connection, showing interest, understanding what you might be interested in doing with them. No different to, say, on a commercial level, saying, I really want to work with this company, and for that I would love to, maybe I have to make contact with them somehow and show them what I could do and what I would like to do with them. It's sort of like a cis approach, isn't it? So that's a very human approach to, and that doesn't have to be too different to, say, approaching like the biggest company in the world as to doing a rap. I mean, I think it's respectful, just acknowledge that everyone's equal.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Well said. I'm respectful of your time because you have to pick up a very VIP person at the train station over there.
He's coming down from Darwin. He's coming to talk. He was a signatory on the Voice of Parliament. Did I mention that already?
I think so.
On the Uluru Statement for the Heart, and he is coming to speak at our forum tonight, which is about supporting Vote Yes.
Yes, and will you be taking his portrait? Will there be time?
Yeah, no, I'm going to pick him up. I'm going to do a photographic shoot with him, portrait, and then I will take him to his hotel and he'll get settled in, get ready for tonight's forum. And then I've got another photo shoot in my studio here with a lady who's a dance teacher, an African dance specialist, and she's called Wild Moves. And so she teaches all over Europe and Africa, and she's a humble, creative, incredible artist that lives down here in Jan Juc, where I live.
Wow, you two will have lots to talk about. Thank you, Ferne. You gave us so much to think about, and I loved our chat.
Me too.
Where can people find you so that they can follow your work and all your adventures?
Oh, well, we did have a chat earlier, didn't we, Grace? I need to get my website up and going. So that's not active right now. I took it off a little while ago just to reinvent my voice on there. So at the moment, currently, it's just at Ferne Millen Photography is my social handle. So you'll find me on Facebook and Instagram. And but my website is just fernemillen.com. It's just got to be reinvented. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I'll put the link to your socials in the show notes. But until I see you next time, my lovely friend, thank you so much. I loved chatting with you, and I'm sure my listeners will love this episode.
Oh, my God. It's always a pleasure. Love talking to you, Grace. Thank you for bringing out the best in me.
Oh, thank you, Ferne.
All right. It's that meeting place. We created magic.
Yes.
Yes.
Hey friends, I want to remind you to head to the show notes to download my photo comps mega list. There is a list of international and national photographic awards and competitions. So just input your name and address and the list is yours. That's it for today's episode. If you found it valuable, I invite you to leave a review so more people can find this podcast, or simply subscribe to be notified when each new episode drops. Until next time, see you later.